So, yeah, that's Mathis. He can take his punk self somewhere else and go deal with his rainbow fixation. But all his children, rainbow, man, what have you not been doing?
Quite frankly, I don't want to fight him. I don't want to go back and forth. I mean, lions don't fight monkeys. It's unfair. And to put it in street vernacular, gangsters don't fight lames. In my case, a OG.
Now, I'm sure you've heard by now that Judge Joe Brown and Judge Mathis has been going back and forth. Two things about this particular incident. Personally, in my personal opinion, I've listened to both interviews. I didn't listen to all the things they said, but I got the gist of what they was talking about. First of all, Judge Joe Brown was saying that Judge Mathis sold out for the LGBTQ or the Rainbow Coalition because his son is gay. Now, everybody has a right to be gay if you want to be gay. Everybody can accept their children as being gay if you want to accept your children. I don't think any harm should come to people for what lifestyle they choose, but everybody don't have to accept it. Judge Joe Brown was asked a specific question about Judge Mathis. And Judge Joe Brown alluded to the fact that his show and Judge Judy's show was number 1 and number 2. We can look up the statistic and see that he's telling the truth. I think he said Judge Mathis was about 139. He was way down on the totem pole. He said that the folks in charge came to him and wanted him to start doing ads for the whole gay agenda. He said he wasn't comfortable doing that. He didn't take the money. Eventually, they ended up taking him off the air, even though his show was ranked way higher than Judge Mathis. Now, I've never watched Judge Mathis' show that he has with his family. Some about his son, it's gay and he accepted. But I did listen to the interview of Judge Mathis. It's almost like he's trying to talk about when he used to be on the streets or something, because he alluded to the fact that some gang members has called him as if they wanted to do something to Joe Brown, Judge Joe Brown, who's 80 years old, because he made a reference. Now, two lies that Judge Mathis tells in the interview, if you listen to it, I can't play the whole thing. First thing he said that his brother was gay. He said if somebody said something about his brother when he was 12 years old, he would pistol whip him. First of all, I don't believe you. I don't believe you pistol whipped nobody when you was growing up if they said something about your brother and you was 12. You have every right to defend your family member if you want to. But here's the problem I had. The whole time Judge Mathis was on the air, he wasn't going so hard for the whole LGBTQ. So what Judge Joe Brown is saying, that he sold out because they offered him some, it must be true. Because in the interview, he never addresses that. He talks all around, threatening gangsters calling him or whatever. You're too old for that. You used to be a judge. And if you said some gang member was saying he wants to do something to Judge Joe Brown, FBI may want to talk to you about that phone call.
And then that crap he does about endorsing LGBTQIA+ on that At Home with Mathis, and the fact that when I was on, I was number 1 and 2, and he was down 150, 160 in the ratings, flunkying out, doing what he did, acting ignorant. And that's why he lasted so long. I was number 1 and number 2, the number 1 money-making show for CBS that they bragged to their stockholders was making the whole operation so profitable, and he was down there. He's one of those shows that makes low-level commercial money and you can keep on forever, and he was amenable to pushing the rainbow cult.
So I don't want to fight with him. I want to get him some care. Something's wrong. The man put my wife's name in his mouth in the context of a hoe. When I had mentioned him calling Harris a hoe, and I said he better not say it about my wife, his response next time he came on television was, Well, something to the effect of, I don't know if his wife is a hoe or not. If she takes money, if she said that, she might be a. Who talks like that and not have any fear?
But I gotta ask you about Kamala Harris. How you feel about her?
She's a piece of shit. I was in California. She lacked professional competence, and she worked on it by hiking up her hemline when she needed influence rather than researching. She's always tried to do the casting couch to get where she wants. Now, the problem is that'll get somebody to a certain level quickly.
Second thing is that Judge Mathis said something in the interview to the effect that if you do your research, people are born this way. In other words, the science is settled, kind of like climate change. The science is settled that you're born that way. So what Judge Mathis is saying, first of all, you need to ignore what the Word of God says. Second of all, he's saying that if you got certain values, you need to ignore that, because some medical doctors disagree with whatever doctors you're talking about. I don't like the whole thing of people thinking that they're so sensitive you can't criticize anything about them. Now, he says that Judge Joe Brown said something about his wife, and he said something about his son. Now, the part that he's talking about his wife, I'm getting it because Judge Joe Brown was asked about Kamala Harris, and Judge Joe Brown said she was a hoe. Now, because she used to hype her dress up. Judge Mathis installs himself into that argument. He wasn't talking about your wife. He's talking about her. He said, I wish he would call my wife that. And Judge Joe Brown said something to the effect, well, if she taking money or something, maybe, I don't know, maybe she may be something. That's what he said. But Mathis installed himself in the conversation. He was talking about Kamala Harris. Judge Joe, you're not married to Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was running for the president, and she could be criticized. You get upset because he criticized Kamala Harris, you install yourself in the conversation. Then you start getting butthurt when he said that you sold out for the LGBTQ or the Rainbow Coalition, which is true. We can prove that you didn't used to talk about it. Now you start going in hard. Because during the interview, Judge Mathis says that he's telling all the other men, you need to accept your son, you need to accept your son. I'm not telling you should hate your child. You can still love your child but not accept the lifestyle. You can do that too. But he was acting as if you're paying attention to what everybody else is saying, the reason you want to accept your son. Maybe it's got something to do with their values. It has nothing to do with what nobody else think. It has nothing to do with what nobody else think. It may be the values of that individual. He made it seem like the only reason you want to accept your son doing it is because you're worried about what everybody else thinks. I don't think that's the mindset. But Judge Mathis is all in his feelings, talking about what he used to do. Nothing worse than an old gangster, whoever, constantly talking about what you used to do. Judge Joe Brown has every right to address a situation or say something about it. You can't get butthurt. Why didn't you say something about the facts? Why didn't you say he's lying about this because my ratings was high? He's lying about this, I never sold out for the LGBTQ. He didn't address none of that. He started talking about like he's from the street, and then he called himself a lion, and Judge Joe Brown is a monkey. Now, if I call some of these Negroes a monkey, they get offended. But Judge Mathis was calling Judge Joe Brown a monkey.
Lions don't fight monkeys. It's unfair. And to put it in street vernacular, gangsters don't fight lames. In my case, a OG ain't fighting a lame.
He said he was a lion. He's an OG. He's a gangster. And Judge Joe Brown is nobody. Well, his ratings was way better than yours. That is a fact. You can't know. We're not talking about street toughness now. We're talking about who's right about a factual statement. Judge Joe Brown said you sold out for the LGBTQ. He said his show was ranked way higher than yours. You didn't address those two issues. Those are the things on the table. If you want to accept your son as being gay, that's fine. Nobody's mad at you. It's your son, hell. If you want to accept your family members as being gay, that's fine. Nobody's telling you to hate them. But he has every right to criticize you selling out for the LGBTQ. So if you get mad about it, it seems like you got all butthurt about it because the truth came out. You sold out. Because if you're saying that you've been defending your brother when he was gay when y'all was growing up, why didn't you come out on your shows before your son came out, before you got the show? Why was you defending it that hard in the first place? You wasn't, because you lying. You sold out because the LGBTQ promised you money just like they do everybody else. That's why you sold out. Because if you was this sold out in the first place, because I used to watch Judge Mathis, and I don't never remember him going in hard for the gay agenda. All of a sudden he started going in hard for the gay agenda. That means they told you to do it. Just like every Hollywood person, every actor then said that they come to them and try to homosexualize them. They want to homosexualize everything. You want to be gay? Have at it. It's your lifestyle. I don't got nothing to do with it. But please don't tell me that I have to accept it, or tell me that you was born that way, or tell me that the Bible is wrong about it, or tell me that there's some medical proof to prove that. You got your opinion, I got mine. You can't get mad because I don't agree with it. You start threatening people, talking about gang members calling you and everything else. How old are you again? 2 judges talking like this. Notice that there's 2 black judges are getting into it. You never see hardly 2 white judges going in, talking about taking it to the street and fighting. That mindset right there is ruining the black community. It's all they ever talk about. Talking about what hood they represent, what gang posse they was in, the whole 9 yards. And then they turn around and want to talk about white supremacy. Judge Mathis sold out for the LGBTQ, the gay agenda. That's a fact. That's not nobody making up anything. It's a damn fact. And then he got mad because Judge Joe Brown said something about it. Seems to me you got your issues in the wrong place. Seems to me that you're upset with the wrong people. You could have said, yes, I took the money, or either no, he's lying, I never took the money. You could have easily said that. You could have said, my show was ranked higher than his, we can look it up. But you didn't address any of the facts. You skated around the facts because you don't really want to address the facts, because that tells me that Judge Joe Brown was right about everything he said. Now, whether he called your wife or alluded to the fact that your wife was a hoe, I don't really know. If he did that, maybe he's wrong for that. But people come in and start slinging mud and talking all kind of trash and then get mad when somebody starts, hey, if you go pick a fight with somebody, don't get mad they start fighting dirty. You pick the fight. It's not always good to go pick fights with people. You go to people's platform getting upset because they said something, and then when they attack you and say something, then you get butthurt. Can't do that. That was his opinion. You didn't prove any points that he said was absolutely wrong. He didn't refute any facts. Judge Mathis didn't refute any facts that Joe Brown says. And another thing that Joe Brown said in another interview is that they were supposed to do something for the appellate court, that the Supreme Court was thinking about allowing some things, or the appellate court was thinking about allowing cameras in them. And he and Judge Napolitano, Judge Joe Brown, Judge Napolitano, and Mathis was supposed to talk to the appellate court, and he says, Joe Brown said he was embarrassed because Mathis told him he had some gospel play to do, and he didn't even do it, so he said he was embarrassed as a black man. It's best to address the facts and leave your feelings out of the way. That's my word to Judge Mathis.